Hello, my name is Anuj Duggal. I head the Sustainability and ESG Charter at nasscom. As you might be aware, the nasscom Engineering and Design Summit is in its 15th edition this year. This year's theme is Designing for a Sustainable Autonomous Future. Welcome to our in-conversation discussion on a very important sub-theme, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, let me introduce my distinguished guest. It's a privilege to welcome Sateesh Kumar Paramasivam, a distinguished technical expert in materials at Schneider Electric. Sateesh has extensive experience in material resilience, sustainability, and green resource management, and more recently in developing green material solutions. Welcome, Sateesh. Welcome to this in-conversation discussion. I'm so excited.
Hello, Anuj. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for the warm introduction, and it's my pleasure to be part of this 15th edition of nasscom's Engineering and Design Summit. And I'm very much excited for this conversation. And then tell me, Anuj, what's in the store, and then what's all this discussion is about.
Sure. So, as I was alluding to before, taking a main sub-theme from our overarching theme, I think the key here is really a circular economy, and I think more importantly, eco-design and green resources for a circular economy. I think those are the two pillars we'll talk about. We'll learn more about them. I personally feel this is very, very important because I was just doing some reading, and I have been involved in various forums also regarding sustainability and ESG. And I think the key talking point always is that the world is moving from a linear economy to a circular economy, but we have a long, long way to go. So a data point which I was alluding to earlier is the same, that as per a 2021 circularity gap report, I think the current global economy is pegged at about 8.6% circular, which in common language means that at an average, most finished products, if you take, and if they go to the end of the life cycle of those finished products, only 8.6% average, at an average, of the materials can be recovered for reuse. So there's a long way to go, I would say, being optimistic. So I'll turn to you, Sateesh, for an insight, since you live, breathe, and pretty much delve into this topic day in and day out. I think the audience and I would be very, very interested to know any interesting trends you are seeing, either by geography or by material type or by type of industry. How, as the world and companies are pivoting from a linear economy mode to a circular economy mode, are you seeing some mega macro trends that are very, very interesting for us? Please go ahead, Sateesh.
Sure. Of course, sure. And on this, let's start from some of the basic understanding on, just for the benefit of the audience, what's a linear and then circular economy. And really, if we talk about linear economy, you just take, extract, you mine your resources, you manufacture a product, you sell it to a customer, they use it, and finally it goes as a waste. It means linear economy is all about just take, make, use, and then waste. But when we really talk about circular economy, which is circularity, it's all about, take, make, use, but finally it's not really go into a waste. It's all about return, recycle, reuse, or repair. In that sense, we are talking about a product that is completely immortal. It means it can never die in its lifetime in a circular economy, for example, and then the product will go as a cycle in the loop of the entire product life cycle, where even at the end of the life, it gets remanufacturing, or I would say it gets a real life to be again back into some consumer hand. So that is the basic difference if you really talk about what is linear or circular economy. But just to mention, probably the world is missing one economy that is currently running parallelly or for past so many decades. Maybe, Anuj, I think we are just missing to talk about that, and then I just try to give a very small insight on that. It's nothing but the recycling economy. It means, yes, we have a linear economy, we have a circular economy, but when we talk about a recycling economy, it's all about take, make, use, and definitely recycle. But as you rightly pointed out the data point on 8.6, which goes into circularity, similarly, as per the data we have between, say, 19 and 20, it's not that all that gets manufactured go into recycling. As of now, we have around 9 to 10% of the plastic waste. If I talk about exactly the plastic waste that is getting generated, It's roughly about 8 to 10% or 9 to 10% is what goes into real regeneration or recycling. And again, this projection, what we have even up to 2060 is it can go up to maximum 70%. And still we will have 20% going to incineration and still 50% completely going into landfill. As you rightly said, we have close to 80% of potential is what we have that is getting wasted, which can be an opportunity for us to put into the circular economy. So that's something on the linear or circular. So it means linear or recycling is definitely not going to be for our future. And then it's circular, which completely talks about having a principles of zero waste concept or zero waste principle is going to be for a better ecosystem or for our future generations. And now, as you were asking about the trends in different industry or geographies, of course, many times Europe leads, and then I will try to take some examples from the Europe Union regulatory and then other eco-design principles just to talk about. And then Europe, leads as usual with today 20, close to 54 actions on the EU first circular action plan to transition to a circular economy. So it's called as Circular Economy Action Plan, which is called CEAP. And then normally to achieve this, they have four main themes or principles. So I would say it's four main themes, which talks about, makes sustainable products as a basic norm. It means any product that you manufacture should have a recycled content in it, should have a bio-based or renewable resource, and then never a product that is not sold to a customer should be destructed. It means it should have a real life. It means a product cannot sit in your store for 10 years and then you discard because it is not sold. And then the second main important principle or theme is on empowering consumer. It means you give more and more digitized information to your consumers where they will be able to understand what is the environmental footprint of the product he or she is buying, what is the repairability index, what is the durability index, and then it has so many other information that allows the consumer to choose a product that he can afford to contribute to the ecosystem or the environment. Now coming to focus on some of the initiatives. For example, France, we all know what is recycling. It means waste from electrical and electronic equipments. And then clearly France has the target of achieving 65% of recycling collection by 2024. It's very ambitious when you talk about, overall as an industry, we use only 9 to 10% of recycling. But this ambition is about almost achieving 60% of product that is coming back from electrical and electronic market for recycling by 2024. And just to talk about our own initiative within Schneider. Today, we remanufacture one of our master pack top circuit breaker in one of our manufacturing plant in Grenoble. We collect this product back, we disassemble, we diagnose, we upgrade, we test completely for all functionality, and then we put back this remanufactured or refurbished product in the market. Just one last point on this. When we say we remanufacture and put this back in the market, we empower, we give the opportunity to the consumer to choose between a new and then a remanufactured product. And if a consumer really choose a remanufactured, he is straight away contributing to 45% of saving on CO2 emission, which is almost equivalent to 755 kilograms of equivalent CO2 for one of our breaker timing. So it means a lot. And then when you talk about 755 kilograms of CO2 for single breaker, then you can understand the potential when it goes into circular.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great example, and thanks for giving the trends. I agree totally that the EU leads by example, and sometimes people understand or don't understand, like the last one where they uniformly said, that all the phone charging should be type C, USB-C. So I think that's a step in the right direction, because if you leave it to consumer will and company will, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. So sometimes you need legislation and you need strong policies and enforcement of the policies. So thank you for those insights, Sateesh. I think in the interest of time, let's turn to the main, let's say, meat of our discussion, which is really the two pillars, eco-design principles and green materials. So I'll talk about, let's first look at eco-design principles. So eco-design principles, I'll just quote the European Environment Agency. And it's a little bit common sense, a little bit intuitive also, but I think for an expert like you, you'll give more nuanced input. So eco-design principles in a layman term means how do you integrate the environmental aspects into the whole manufacturing and the product development process, starting from the design, the selection of raw materials, and primarily also the whole manufacturing process, so that you balance both ecological and economic requirements, right? Because there is an economic requirement for a product, and we understand that, but there's an ecological impact which needs to be minimized. So we should understand that, and therefore have the lowest possible environmental impact without compromising on the economic requirements. So maybe what you can do is, Sateesh, can you articulate some of the important principles in eco-design, because I think that's key for us. And any, again, like examples you've seen in your work or client work or what you've seen in a professional circle, that would be really, really helpful for us to cement that understanding. Over to you, Sateesh.
Sure, Anuj. And yeah, eco-design, of course, is the first and foremost or one of the pillar of circular economy for sure. And then the entire circular economy is going to run on the basic principles of eco-design for sure. And in general, as you mentioned, the Europe eco-design principles talks about, or the entire framework of eco-design principles talks about a wide range of requirement, and then I'll try to mention few of them, starting with the product. The first foremost principle is all about the product durability, reusability, upgradability, and then repairability. It means, as I said in the earlier discussion, it's all about how you can make your product immortal. It means it can never die, and then it can be only reused, and then reused. So that's the foremost principle on eco-design. And the second principle is all about not having any presence of substance that will inhibit your circularity. It means tomorrow you want to repair, you wanted to completely put into recycle. There should not be any substance or presence of chemicals that will inhibit your circular or the circularity. And the very high importance is given for the efficient use of energy and resources. And obviously, the presence or the use of recycled content related comes from chemical, mechanical. I talk about in the future, in the next discussion. But yeah, the presence of recycled content, and then the complete remanufacturing and recycling of a part or a product. And the most important, again, is the data on carbon and environmental footprint, because this is directly linked to climate change and the ecosystem. And the last but not the least point is the information to our customers or consumers. So Europe talks more on eco passport or digital passport. I'll talk about probably if you have time in the coming discussions. But information to customer is what is very, very important in today's world for sustainability, because sustainability is not in everybody's hand as of now, and then sometimes it's consumer who decides what he buys. And I can put this probably in, there are so many things, but I can put this probably in three simple perspectives. So it's all about circular supply, which is for recyclability, reusability, and then finally design for disassembly and design for recycling. And the second perspective is all about product life extension. As I said, it's more for durability, it's more for how you can easily upgrade your product for the reuse, or you can completely remanufacture by modifying just few simple components in your product. And the last one is all about resource and recovery, because when you talk about circular supply, it's just at product and part level. It's not going back to your raw material level. But when you talk about resource recovery, it's completely on the end of life of your product, and then how you clearly manage to recover your material or resources used in your product. And just to give some points, or just to give some examples on how these principles are implemented in, for example, in a designer's or in a design or a product with some of the customers in our day-to-day life. Today, within our company, every product that now we design, we manufacture, we look into complete the eco-design principles and the principles of circularity. So it means we try to avoid any substance that is regulated globally anywhere. It means, for one of the examples, say avoiding halogenated materials, and then we try to limit ourselves in the family or type of material that you can use in a single product. It means if you use multiple material, it's not so easy to disassemble or easy to again disintegrate and then to put into recycling. So we try to avoid use of lot of external materials like, or chemicals like glue, like, for assembly process. And biodegradability is something we are looking at, but we try to avoid biodegradable material that needs any specific chemical or environment to become a biodegradable material. Within our company, for some of the segment, 100% of brown packaging is coming from recycled content. It means we call famously as brown packaging, but 100% of packaging is coming from recycled sources. We make more digital documents. As I said, we empower our consumers with more digital platforms for more informations. And then, full compliance, as I said, to all regulatory and then substance compliance. Finally, we try to implement eco-design as our, way of life to protect our environment, but final goal is exactly zero waste. And yeah, I think that's what I can talk about principles or how we are implementing in our day-to-day life.
No, thank you for that. I think some of them resonated with me. Product durability, of course, and then the fact that resource security was there. You're also looking at the information. I think that's the key, because I totally agree with you that compared to a remanufactured or a material which has remanufactured materials in its input, compared to all greenfield. So there could be certain decisions which, either because of the price or because of just doing the right thing, which the consumers are entitled to know about. And I think that much awareness, if one creates, because our awareness is only in the packaging, but our awareness is sometimes not in what constitutes a finished product. So I think that was a very, very important point which you mentioned. I think if that is a takeaway the audience will take from this. I think
just to add
just look at the labels. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add one last point, as you rightly talked about the charging ports, today we talk about sometimes within a product, within a company, how you make a product recyclable and reuse. But tomorrow, the world is moving forward. That's the future I see. It means you have a product that is coming, that is put in the market for recycling, and then anyone should be able to take few components from that product and then put back in their own product as a remanufactured or refurbished. I think that's the next future I see as part of the eco-design principle too.
Absolutely. So let's switch to the next pillar, which is also equally important. It's not just the principle. I think the materials per se also play a key role. So I'm just talking about green resources. So let's try to understand that. So in a very simple question, I'll ask you, what exactly are green resources, and where do they come into play? And give some examples again that would be really, really useful for us. Over to you, Sateesh.
Yeah, sure. And as I said, eco-design is the first and foremost, and then green resources are nothing less than, and then it's the second or another pillar for definitely the circular economy. And when we talk about green resources, specifically we talk about materials. As of now, not really energy. Yes, green energy or green renewables are definitely important, but as such for manufacturing, linking to circular economy, we are talking more and more on green materials, especially if I have to mention clearly, for example, plastics or metals. But these are broadly defined under mainly three principles, for example, again here on green resources. So if I say any material that is safe for people and environment, any material that is completely circular, it means it's recyclable and then you can put back in the market, and which has very low CO2 emissions in terms compared to any virgin or non-recycled in that sense. So it means any material that is safe, circular, with low emission to environment, especially CO2 emission to environment or carbon footprint, can be called as a green resource. So just for an example, if I take a plastic material, so if a plastic material is containing a recycled content coming from, say, a mechanical or chemical recycled process, coming from, again, a base source of post-consumer recycled or post-industrial recycled, can very well fit within the ambit of green resource or green plastics in an overall sense. And any material or plastic that is containing renewable sources, like, say, for example, a bio-based, but specifically to mention, definitely not the first generation, because we should not compete with the food chain, but definitely from 1.5 generation to the fourth generation, where we talk about recovering from CO2 emissions, is what can be again consider as a green plastic. And coming to metals, for example, definitely yes, the materials like copper and aluminum, we are definitely talking about materials having recycled content. But in general, overall today, if we can manufacture a metal from an electric furnace, which really contributes tons and tons of, uh, contributes to reduction in tons of the CO2 emission. Today, again, we consider even that as a green resource or green material. So again, just to add, in terms of materials that comply to all global substance regulation can be still considered as green resource. But if you really ask me, complying to a regulation that too for chemical or substances, it is green? No, not exactly that. But when we talk about eco-design principle, when it clearly says for circularity, if a substance is inhibiting the circularity of a product or a material, then that's not really coming in our ambit of circular economy. So it means if a material is complying to the stringent global any regulation that is on the substance, it means it is going to comply for eco-design. So just one last point on this, specifically what we are doing internally in our company, we work a lot on green resources specific to plastics and metals especially, and then our global target for Schneider for 2025 is to increase our green material content to 50% globally in all our products. So yeah, so it's all about, so in general, a safer, circular, and then low emission material is what exactly will be a green resource or green material for us.
Excellent. And I think we did not talk about the cost part, and just wanted to put it out there. There's always a perception that anything which has that green tag is expensive.
Yeah, I agree to that. That's the notion. Definitely, that's in the market, and then some are even using it to capitalize. Putting premium on their product, and then I'm completely not in agreement with this kind of principle.
But I think it's also economies of scale, right? So more and more consumers, and especially I think knowledgeable consumers, and I'm talking about consumers first, not even B2B, B2C. Consumers, if they are knowledgeable and they are aware and they can afford it, if they don't make the choice, who else will make the choice, right? So I think that's my call to action for everyone who's listening to this. I think we both can make this appeal that if you are aware, if you can afford it, please try to go for the greener option. Of course, read the label, do your research. And I think if there is a premium to be paid, please pay the premium, because the product you will get will ultimately, it could be a laptop, it could be a device, it could be even textile, which is something which you shop often. Always look at something which is more sustainable. And that's, I think, the key. And if it's a premium, please pay the premium, because the premium will be worth it. And you will contribute to, I would say, a low CO2 emission in the planet. And also you will feel good. So you can pat yourself on the back.
Yes, sure.
All right. So I think we have time.
Yeah. Just one, adding to your point, one even humble request I have to all the audience who is listening to us is, yes, today it's just starting, the market is evolved, it's yet to evolve, and then once we have a complete circular, unless we make sustainable products at the hands of common man, we cannot succeed globally at any point of world in circular economy. So yes, today there is a cost added to that, but the industry should move towards making sustainable products finally in the hands of a common man. Otherwise, that's the major population. And then, yes, people who don't have the understanding of sustainability, yes, we can make them to understand. But finally, it's industry responsibility to make these sustainable products finally reach in the hands of a common man.
Absolutely. So I think we might have time for just one final insight, I think, which is very, very important also. And I think it's to do with practitioners. It could be designers, could be engineers. How do they imbibe eco-design principles and related engineering practices? Also look at green resource management. So if there's the curiosity in me, and this is more professionally, and this is not like a consumer, it's more professionally, and I am a designer or I'm an engineer, and I'm very interested to pursue this further. What kind of learning resources? Do I have some forums? Do I have some associations, etc.? So maybe you can give us some guidance there. I think that would be really, really very useful for our audience. Over to you, Sateesh.
Sure. And today in sustainable world, every company has their own targets internally or published externally to meet on sustainability or circular economy. It means just one humble request to the audience is, even as far as I am concerned, I use mostly lot of internal resources that I have, internal opportunity that I have to learn first. And then definitely we can reach what is external. But yeah, definitely look internally what resource we have. And then for my understanding, that's really abundant for sure. And but anyway, coming to what it is as a resource, definitely this is evolving, and then still lot of resource has to be built under this umbrella. And then it's a challenging situation definitely for all of us because it's evolving. But otherwise, we have really avenues like, say, for example, World Circular Economic Forums, who has who publish a lot of information on design principles, who publish a lot of information on the circular economy principles, guidelines, and then even some of the real time examples. We have forums like, Ecodesign forums. We have forums like, building material forum, completely on the green certification, for example, for a building. So there are multiple dimensions in this learning, just not an aspect of design, but it's about our ecosystem and then environment. So there are multiple external forums where we can really participate, understand, and then we can evolve along with them. So it's not that everything is there and then everything we can go and then get just like that. No, we are going to evolve a lot on this, and then we have to evolve together. But coming again back to some of the understandings that we have to have, if someone really can try to understand what is digital passport, for example, what information the consumer needs based on this, what is an eco passport based on, say, cradle to cradle. So definitely we give very good understanding on the complete concept on eco design, especially the eco design principles. And specific to some of the tools, LCA is a normal tool life cycle assessment, and then even for me globally, it is still evolving because you will hear multiple numbers for the same product sometimes. That's not obvious, but like tools like life cycle assessment, principles, and then tools like design for environment, concepts like cradle to cradle certification. So these are some avenues and then forums that the design community can really utilize to understand the ecological designs. And specific to green resources, we have again multiple certification body, for example, regulatory body, and then NGOs who is extensively working on especially green resources, and then those can be an opportunity to tap in those kind of forums for a better understanding. So that's not all about, but few that I can mention where I'm part of or where I'm really utilizing to be better knowledgeable or resourceful in this topic.
No, thank you, Sateesh. I think you pointed out a wide array, really a wide array of learning tools available. And I will just add and also just put my 2 cents. I personally started the sustainability journey like 2-3 years back, and it was a question of being curious and passionate. So if you're curious and passionate, the path will form for you. And in today's world, I think, and I think maybe it's just the generation we are in, I think we are blessed with just ample resources at our disposal, whether digital or in person. Like I will give you some. There are so many mocks which are there, open access universities, we call them MACs for learning. And either your organizations have a link with the MOOC, or you can just sign up with them. Some courses are complimentary or free, some you can pay and do those courses. They're done by world-class universities, sitting at your, on your desk and chair at your home, you can do it. Similarly, like you said, part of communities, etc. I think that's very important, whether in your own organization, like you said about Schneider, or in other organizations, you form your own groups. Like nasscom encourages that. So we have formally for our members also, we have the nasscom Insights, which is primarily a community where we have a page where by topic we have community, they can contribute to it. People just sign up, they contribute, they can have a point of view, they can have an article, they can have a blog, they can comment. So it's an informal way of keeping in touch, but I think there's so many other formal ways of doing it. I think the curiosity is to be there. And then engineering and design summit, which we are going to have in the next few days, is just one more point. So You just need to be aware of what is happening around you and just
Absolutely.
walk that extra mile to get involved. I think that's my 2 cents I would add to that. And the doors will open for you. The mentors will come forward for you. You
Yes.
just have to be hungry and curious. I think that's what I would say.
I think if someone is curious about circular economy or eco-design, I
Yes.
think he's going to have a better future, and then he's going to make even a better future for our future generation for sure.
Absolutely. And I think the key is also that how much can you contribute? So we saw that stat which you had in the beginning, like 8.6% of the world is only circular as of now. And of course, you cannot get to 100%. So the reality is that there will be a number like a 30 or a 40, and in certain industries will be more than others, depending on the kind of material you use. But the fascinating thing is that there's so much road to cover in this.
Yes.
So if you're
That's
curious
so
and interested, yeah, like you said, you can just take which path you want and you can keep going and you can really contribute more actively. So I think we're out of time now, Sateesh. Any parting words before I logically conclude? Anything you want to add to what we've discussed, to summarize, etc. Up to you. I think we have 1 or 2 minutes. So
yeah, sure. But as I said, I think circular economy is going to be our future, because sometimes when we part with someone, we say, it's a globe, and then we'll meet again. It's the same. Today I manufacture a product, and then it should meet me again, after going through all the rounds in the globe, in the hands of consumer, experiencing all the feel and touch, and then its function, its performance. I think it should come, it should come back to me. And then when I say me, it should come back to the manufacturing hub again, to make, or again to have a new life. It's like a reincarnation, so that's what the world is looking at. I think the summit really, on the engineering and design summit, really makes sense. And then I think sustainability is the need of hour, and then circular economy is the need of hour. So I think it's a good conversation we had, and which is really need of the hour. And then if it can really enlighten and then give some idea to some of our audience, I think we'll be successful.
No, I can't talk about the audience, but I can say personally for me, this last half an hour, 35 minutes have been very enriching, both professionally and personally, in my outlook as the whole world marches from a linear economy to a circular one. So thank you once again, Sateesh, for this insightful conversation. And I would just wish everyone to imbibe some of the key learnings, and depending on what your heart says, of course, where do you want to go? But there's ample room to make a real big difference in the world as we move from linear to circular. So thank you once more. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.